Welcome back to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. If you're just joining us this morning, our focus has been on children's books. My next guest is someone that I know very well. Jenni Rose is a special education teacher that grew up in Racine. She was a local title holder for the Miss America Scholarship Pageant and represented Racine in the Miss Wisconsin pageant. I'm excited to talk to her about her large number of children's books that she's written. How are you, Jenni?
I'm fine. How are you, Andrea? It's so great to see you.
Always good to see you. And I am really happy to talk about this large number, like I said, of books. And I say large because I remember, I think maybe was it 3 or 4 years ago, you had written your first children's book. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. And then here came another and another and another. And I was like, she's on it. So I want to make our audience aware today of all these great books that they can add to their child's collection. So when I said that I know you very well, just for the audience, I'll let them know. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, was it 1997 that we made the Milwaukee Bucks Energy Dance team at the same time?
1997 seasons through 1999. Right around that period, they had that, what was it when they were off? I can't think of the word, but we had some time off. Yes, we had a little time off, but 97 to 99. Those are my seasons. I know you went on a little bit longer.
I went till 2003. So
okay.
Yeah. So awesome to have you here in this capacity. So you're the mother of 2 boys. And like I said, you released your first book. And tell us about that particular title, I'm Different.
Oh, sure. Well, I'm Different is about a little girl growing up in the 70s in Wisconsin, biracial, and just the things that she endured growing up. You know, kids being very honest, some very cruel. What are you? What planet are you from? Why is your hair different? Why do you look different? So being different at that time was instilled in me from other people that it was a bad thing or there was something wrong with me. In the background, my family, mom and dad, teaching me, you have the best of both worlds. It's good to be different. That's a good thing. So I had these conflicting opinions. It was like, well, who am I? You know, and I went through that period, you know, in junior high where it's, I just associated, oh, I'm Black, or I just associated, I'm white. And then I came to a period of time where I don't have to choose. I'm both. I'm proud of my mom's side, Armenian. I'm proud of my dad's side, African-American. And it took me a long time to realize, no, you don't have to choose. You are both. So one of the things, like you had mentioned the pageants, it gave me a chance to have a platform to talk about being different. And it was funny because I'm still friends with her on Facebook, but Miss Milwaukee, I had roomed with her for one of the Miss Wisconsin pageants. And it was funny. And I think they did this on purpose. Her platform was talking about similarities. My platform was talking about differences. And we would get into discourse and debates, but friendly because we were friends. But I saw her side and she saw my side.
Wow. And so that book is meant to help young children who grow up with people asking them the same questions that you went through, and it should help not only that child realize that it's okay to be different, but also the kids who have been prone to ask those kinds of questions. They read a book like this and they realize they understand it a little better and don't feel the need to ask those questions, we hope.
Exactly. And, you know, I know times have changed. I see so many more kids. I have students, you know, everyone's mixed with something. But, you know, back then in the 70s, it was very rare to find someone who looked like me. Mm-hmm. And it was a base in terms of my next book, you know, what would be next? Well, I have, like you said, I have 2 sons and one of them was born blind in one eye. It's like, I feel like he was supposed to be my son. I was supposed to be his mom. And we've talked about since he could talk, you know, when children ask you, what's wrong with your eye? What's wrong? What happened? And he just, as a toddler, I can hear him saying, I was born like this. Nothing happened. I was born like this. It was an anomaly. We don't know why, and you try to search, well, why? What did I do? Was I too old? And you're just finding there's no pattern with why this particular, it's called PHPV, why this happened. So it was like, oh, I know what my next book is to be. So it just kind of segued into that.
I just love how you take your own personal experiences and realize that, this story can help other people. So in the book, when I'm kind of thumbing through it, and I'm like, wow, you learned some things, because you said PHPV, but that's hyperplastic primary vitriosis. Is that right?
Vitreous, yes. So, and then I start to get into the medical, what is vitreous? Well, we all have a vitreous behind our eye when we're born. Well, his didn't quite go away. So his stuck and he can't see.
Yeah, you talked about him having 2 surgeries to help him see when he was a baby, and that didn't work. You mentioned that in the book, and how he walks with a cane. And what I think is most important for other kids when they're reading this is that he likes doing a lot of fun things just like the other kids. So those are important. Talk about the importance, because I mentioned you are a special education teacher. So, kids who have to deal with special needs really do sometimes get bullied. They sometimes feel left out. And it's important to have other kids have empathy and really understand what other people may be going through.
Exactly. I've been teaching. It's funny, you lose track for a certain amount of time. I know it's been I think I started in 1997. Our first year, Dancing on the Bucks was my first year teaching.
As a teacher.
When I look back, I'm like, how did I do that? But I did it.
I did too. I'm like, how did we do any of the things on top of our jobs? I know.
Yes. So, and starting back then, I was in regular education, and I started going into special ed. I had inquired about a classroom that was specifically for children who were on the autism spectrum. So that's how I kind of got my way into special ed and stayed there, love it. It's more of the social skills, you have to model everything, sitting down, covering your mouth, when you cough. But another book that, again,
add it here.
I'm sorry, I just have all these experiences, and my book just came to my mind, but that's Matthew. And Matthew was named after my grandfather, and I had a cousin who passed away. And Matthew is hearing impaired. Again, I think of all the students I've had, but Matthew is just very friendly. He shares his classroom with the reader. There's some that are on the autism spectrum. There are some that have behavior goals. And, after I had done a lot of the writing after we had a lot of deaths in our family. So I think the way I was coping, never thought this would happen, that I would start writing books, but the way I was coping was I would see things, and then in my mind, I would jot it down or write a note, and it became a book. Wow. So again, being a special education teacher, there's just things that happen that, like typical people, typical children, mine included. Mom, didn't you hear that scream? Or didn't you? And it's like, you're so in tune to, you hear screams all day, but you can tell the difference between the screams in the other room. No, that's normal. That's so-and-so. That's his normal thing, where you don't even realize that's how much you've been in tune to. No, that's typical for our classroom or that classroom. So it's made me, again, more aware of differences, and just being in empathy. When they're little like that, they don't see the differences in each other. If anything, they help each other. So I think that's my comfort zone. I like working with children.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that book is Matthew's Special Education Preschool Classroom. So one of the characters wears a hearing aid. Another is in a wheelchair. There's also, you know, the whole notion of you helping kids understand what is a disability, what is IEP. And so just learning and also taking away some very important things just when it comes to building character. So before we run out of time, I want to mention this one because I've done interviews where with organizations that talk about juvenile arthritis and how serious it can be. And so you've even gone there to talk about that with the series as well. So arthritis is a part of me, not all of me. So tell us a little bit about that one, Jenni.
Well, that one was inspired by a coworker. Again, everything started to become a book, a story. And she kind of shared with me her, you know, her pain she was going through as a baby. And I listened, I left alone. And then in my mind, it was like, you got to ask her. You have to talk to her. You have to ask her more. But like in my mind, like, oh no, Jenni, everything's a book to you. And it wouldn't rest. The voice wouldn't rest to just leave it alone. So I asked her, I said, would you mind if I, you know, just asked you about your story and maybe possibly it could become a book? And her face just lit up.
Oh.
And she said, yes. And then it was like, okay, let's not cry. So I just started to ask her questions. One day it was at lunch, asked her questions, you know, tell me from, you know, when you were a baby on, what happened in elementary school? What happened when you went away to college? And just her sharing her story of the difficulties she went through and the teasing she went through and how she persevered and she became a special education resource teacher. Wow. So it was a different feeling to write, you know, yes, I wrote the one about my son and his experience, but it was a very different experience to write about a worker that I knew as a teacher and as a very patient teacher and as a teacher that, you know, she also, it was affecting her still as she was older in terms of teaching, and she needed kind of like a right-hand person to help her at work. So this is about a former colleague named Denise.
Yeah, Denise, and when she was just 2 years old, diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. And so that's one for people to keep in mind. And then we're running out of time. So I want to mention Alexander and Papa's Number book. That's going to be available very soon. Keep doing what you're doing, Jenni. I'm very proud of you and happy we had an opportunity to talk about the good stuff that you're doing. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Jenni Rose is the author of a series of children's books. You've heard all about them. And that is going to do it for today's show. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. As always, I thank you for watching, and I do hope you join us again next week as we take another look at our issues. Milwaukee, have a great day.